I'm Devi, and today we're going to talk about the history of conflicts in Afghanistan. Landlocked and mountainous, Afghanistan borders 6 countries and is dominated by the imposing Hindu Kush range. This country is also known as the graveyard of empires. But Afghanistan has a long history of domination by foreign conquerors and strife among internally warring factions. The notable conquests have been the conquest of Afghanistan by Alexander the Great, Muslim conquest of Afghanistan, conquest of Afghanistan by the Mongols. Here, Genghis Khan was raiding across the continent. Mughal conquest in Afghanistan. Anglo-Afghan wars, which led to the first involvement of the British Empire in Afghanistan via India. Then came the Great Game. It was a political and diplomatic confrontation that existed for most of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century between the British Empire and the Russian Empire over Afghanistan and neighboring areas. And this game had ramifications all over the world. Then recently, we are witnessing a series of events and wars that has kept Afghanistan in a continuous state of armed conflict since 1978. Want to know how Afghanistan has been the strategic but unwitting center for so much of conflict in the world? US President Joe Biden recently confirmed that the leader of al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri, was killed in a drone strike while in Afghanistan. A surgical strike carried out by the CIA in the Afghan capital, Kabul. It's just been a year since the US left Afghanistan, and the Taliban retook control, causing a huge humanitarian crisis. But what keeps Afghanistan always at the boiling point? In this video, basically, let's try to find out the history of the conflict in Afghanistan and how the country's past threatens its future. Conflicts and conquests. At the gateway between Asia and Europe, this land was conquered by Alexander the Great in around 329 BC. Then, a few centuries later, Mahmud of Ghazni conquered this region. Then came the legendary Genghis Khan around the 13th century, but it wasn't until the 1700s that the area was united as a single country. By 1870, after the area had been invaded by various Arab conquerors, Islam had taken root. During the 19th century, Britain, looking to protect its Indian empire from Russia, attempted to annex Afghanistan, resulting in a series of British-Afghan wars. Conflicts in the 20th century. 1933. Zahir Shah becomes king. The new king brings a semblance of stability to the country and he rules for the next 40 years. And in 1934, the United States formally recognizes Afghanistan. In 1947, Britain withdraws from India, creating the predominantly Hindu but secular state of India and the Islamic state of Pakistan. The notion of Pakistan includes a long, a largely uncontrollable border with Afghanistan. 1953. The pro-Soviet Mohammad Daoud Khan, cousin of the king, becomes prime minister and looks to the communist nation for economic and military assistance. He also introduces a number of social reforms, including allowing women a more public presence. This actually leads to a lot of progressive moves across the nation. 1973. The last king, Mohammad Zahir Shah, gets overthrown in a military coup. The People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan comes to power. The monarchy is abolished and the country witnesses the first precedent. The Republic of Afghanistan is established with firm ties to the USSR. 1975 to 1977. A new constitution is proposed that grants women's rights and works to modernize the largely communist state. But the president in power also cracks down on opponents and is killed in a communist coup. The Afghan Communist Party takes control of the country and they proclaim independence from Soviet influence. At the same time, conservative Islamic and ethnic leaders object to social changes. They want to push the country into medieval times again. Subsequently, the guerrilla movement Mujahideen is created to battle the Soviet bacteria. This is a political move by the USA to stem the spread of Soviet communism. By early 1980, the Mujahideen rebels, funded extensively by the USA, unite against Soviet invaders and the USSR-backed Afghan army. The Taliban also comes into existence. The Cold War comes to an end in 1990 as the USSR dissolves into nothingness. And the world forgets about Afghanistan for a bit. The war in Afghanistan, 2001 to 21. Multiple stages. It's 2001. 9/11 happens. The world changes forever. Days later, US officials on the situational intel say their prime suspect in the 9/11 bombings is Osama bin Laden and is believed to be hiding in Afghanistan. The US invades Afghanistan against the Taliban and al-Qaeda in the aftermath of this. The USA and NATO occupy the region for almost 2 decades. But once America decides that it's time to leave the region as its strategic importance is not something important to them anymore, the Taliban takes over again. And now the region is once again on the brink of going back to the dark ages. So basically, this roller coaster of events is due to Afghanistan's geostrategic location between continents. And of course, the individual motivation of different countries and empires. But the primary victims of these wars for almost 2,000 years have always been the common people of the region. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.